Howdy, my name is Nonat, and welcome to the deep dive for the Summoner class for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Not the Eidolon part of the Summoner, but the Summoner part of the Summoner, where we're talking about the Summoner, not their summon, so just go watch this video first. But before we jump into the Summoner directly, I would like to give a huge thank you to the sponsor for today's video, Moonlight Maps, and their newest Kickstarter. Atlas is a set of tabletop battle maps and encounter cards, and while it is designed mostly for 5th edition, so much of this set is system agnostic that you can use it in your Pathfinder 2e game or any other system you might want to enjoy. Atlas is implementing what they're calling static cling technology, which is a fancy way of saying you can take set pieces, lay them out on your battle map, and they're going to stick to the map, and then they're just as easy to peel back away. So you want to put that wagon down, you want to put up those walls or a barricade, slap down the static little sticker, and then when you're done, peel it off and use it on a different map later. Atlas is coming with 100 hand-drawn maps, and like I said, those static cling stickers can be used on any of them at any time and are completely reusable. Tack onto that a deck of 80 unique encounters pre-written for you by the Atlas team. Now again, these are technically designed for D&D 5th edition, but you can still take the flavor and the monsters and use the Pathfinder 2e stats, or just change it up a little bit and use the closest thing. This can take a lot of the effort out of encounter planning when you can just find something that works and slap it down on your table. The full project is composed of 2 books, Dusk and Twilight, and every map even has a flip side, which is the same map with a different kind of setting. So if you need something similar but not quite how that looks, flip it over, you might have a nighttime version or a daytime version or something else along those lines. So thank you so much to Atlas and by extension Moonlight Maps for sponsoring this episode. I really hope you guys go check it out. Links in the description and the pinned comment below to find out more. Go pledge to the Atlas Kickstarter today. The Summoner! Give you one guess what it does. Like most spontaneous caster, its key ability score is Charisma, but it does get a 10 plus con hit points per level. This is because while the Summoner is a spellcaster, they are actually much more of a melee combatant. They begin trained in perception, expert in fortitude and will, and trained in reflex saves. A pretty solid stat distribution. High base hit points and really good saving throws? Not a bad start, Summoner. The Summoner's selected Eidolon determines their starting skills, and they get 3+ intelligence in bonus skill proficiencies. They are only trained in simple weapons. Keep that in mind, because most of their physical damage is not going to be coming from the Summoner themselves. They are also not trained in any armor, so the Summoner themselves is probably going to be pretty easy to hit. Also very important is that they are trained in, of course, the spell DC and spell attack roll of a different tradition depending on their Eidolon. Again, I heavily insist if you have not seen it, go back and watch the Eidolon guide first, and then the rest of this video will make a lot more sense. At level 1, the Summoner, of course, picks their Eidolon. This is their bonded magical companion for life. They are literally bonded in every single way. You and your Eidolon share hit points. This is why the Summoner gets so many hit points, because most Eidolons are going to be up in melee combat. Not only that, but you also share saving throws and status effects. For example, if your Eidolon gets stabbed by a poison dagger and fails its saving throw, both you and your Eidolon then suffer the effects of that poison. Now don't worry, the damage is not going to be doubled. For example, if you and your Eidolon are both caught in a fireball, you will both make a reflex save, but the lowest saving throw will be the one that counts, and you will share the damage taken. So if you crit succeed your save, but your Eidolon fails, you will still be taking the failure damage of that fireball. Now, the good news is that if you both fail, you are not taking double damage. You are only taking the greatest source of damage. So if you both fail, you take 15 damage and your Eidolon takes 23, you lose 23 hit points, not 38. The same applies to effects like a 3-action heal spell. If you get healed for 12 and your Eidolon gets healed for 16, you regain 16 hit points. The first important action to note is Manifest Eidolon. For 3 actions, you summon your Eidolon in any adjacent space. This is important to note, you can't summon your Eidolon at a range at level 1, so you need to be able to plan yourself accordingly or just already have your Eidolon out, because if you need to manifest it in combat, you're going to be starting at a huge disadvantage. What is nice, however, is if you spend the 3 actions to manifest your Eidolon gets 1 free action to take. Typically, this is going to be to stride or strike, but this means if you are 10 feet away from an enemy, you can manifest Eidolon and have it make a strike against that enemy because you can place it in the square between you and that enemy. At base level, your Eidolon cannot move more than 100 feet away from you, otherwise it will disappear. This means if someone is smart enough and shoves your Eidolon over 100 feet from you, your Eidolon will disappear and you will need to re-manifest it. The same thing happens if you ever hit 0 hit points. If you drop in combat, your Eidolon disappears, which means even if someone wakes you back up with a heal spell, you will need to re-manifest your Eidolon. The Eidolon is also completely different from any kind of summoned creature like Animate Dead or Summon Animal. It does not have the minion trait and it does not have the summoned trait. So while it is conjuration magic, your Eidolon cannot be dispelled. The summoner and their Eidolon share actions. You still only get 3 actions per turn and you share an initiative. If you stride, you and your Eidolon only have 2 actions left. If your Eidolon then strides, you only have 1 action left, so you need to split your 3 actions between the 2 of you. You also share a multiple attack penalty. If you attack with a short bow, then your Eidolon attacks, well, your Eidolon is going to have a penalty even though you're the one who attacked. This is tough and will take a lot of strategizing to get used to, but there are ways around it, such as casting cantrips and spells that use saving throws, so your Eidolon's attacks are still at full bonus. Shout out to the Poison Puff spell that just came out. Oh my god, this has saved the summoner at low levels. Now, in order to get around this limited action economy, the summoner has access to Tandem Actions. By default, you only have 1, which is Act Together. You can almost think of this as a 4th action per turn. When you act together, you and your Eidolon do something at the same time. You can both stride for 1 action, or you can perform an activity with one of them and a single action with the other. For example, if you, the summoner, want to spend 2 actions casting Fireball, your Eidolon can stride at the same time. The inverse is also allowed. Your Eidolon can take a 2-action activity, such as the Dragon's Breath weapon, and you can make a ranged strike for a single action. There's a lot of ways to mix and match this, but just remember 1 action for one person and 1 to 3 actions for the other. Summoners also start with Share Senses, which is exactly what it sounds like. For 1 action, you can put your senses into your Eidolon and see, hear, smell, feel everything your Eidolon is feeling. But remember, at base, they're still stuck within 100 feet of you, so you can see up to 100 feet farther than where you currently are. This is incredibly useful for stealthy Eidolons with a high dexterity score that can sneak around and kind of pull off those stealth missions where you, the summoner, cannot. Eidolons cannot wear gear. They can't wear armor, they can't wield weapons unless there is a specific type of gear with the Eidolon trait, which there is. However, your Eidolon does gain item bonuses from 3 different items if the summoner has them. If you have any magic items that grant the summoner a perception bonus, your Eidolon also gets the perception bonus. If you have any potency runes on your armor that increase your armor class, it also increases the armor class of your Eidolon. And this applies to any item that increases your armor class or saving throws such as the Resilient rune or Bracers of Armor. The same thing goes for weapons. If you have property or fundamental runes on a weapon, they also affect your Eidolon's strikes. So if you have hand wraps of striking mighty blows, then your Eidolon will be dealing an additional damage die on all of their attacks. Keep in mind, while weapon property runes are transferred to your Eidolon, armor property runes are not. If you get flight on your armor, this does not give your Eidolon flight. Keep that in mind. Summoners cast spells spontaneously and progress in the same way as the Magus with the limited spellcasting. They start with 5 cantrips and a single first level spell per day. Upon gaining 3rd level spell slots at level 5, the summoner loses their 1st level spell slots and progresses like this. Every time they gain a higher spell slot, they lose their lowest, so they will never have more than 4 spell slots per day at base value. Whenever the summoner loses a spell like this, they can replace it upon leveling up with a spell of the proper level. On top of that, they also have a very special signature spell feature. Because the summoner's spell slots are so limited, every spell the summoner knows is considered a signature spell and can be heightened and lowered at any point to any level of slot they have available. This is incredibly different from other spontaneous casters like the Bard and the Sorcerer, and gives the summoner, again, a wide variety of options, but far less slots to use those options. Summoners also have link spells, which are their focus spells, of course starting with a classic 1 focus point in their focus pool, but they do start with a focus cantrip. Summoners begin with Boost Eidolon, which does not cost a focus point and is a single action. You imbue your Eidolon to gain +2 bonus damage on all of its strikes for 1 round. This is a fantastic use of an extra action from your summoner to, rather than make an extra attack and inflict that penalty, just increase the damage of your Eidolon strikes. On top of that, every time your Eidolon deals an additional damage die, such as with the striking rune, it gets +2 more damage from Boost Eidolon. I just got to play a summoner in a level 5 game where I had striking, and being able to spend 1 action to upgrade my Eidolon's damage by +4 felt really good. Summoners also start with the focus spell Evolution Surge. This allows you to spend a focus point and 2 actions to sort of alter your summon for 1 minute and give it a variety of different options for evolutions. These are typically effects that will require you to take a feat to gain them, but you can give it to your Eidolon temporarily with this focus spell. For example, you can grant your Eidolon low light vision or dark vision, an imprecise 30-foot scent sense, you can let it breathe underwater, or increase its speed by 20 feet, which is insane. Additionally, at levels 5 and 9, you get additional options. At level 5, you can make your Eidolon large, giving it 10-foot reach. It doesn't give it any other effects, but it does just become big, and it lets you ride it. You can give your Eidolon a climb speed, and then at level 9, you can make your Eidolon huge, giving it an additional 5 feet of reach and taking up 9 squares on the battlefield, or give it a fly speed equal to its land speed. Overall, a very flexible and useful focus spell to have, especially out of combat when exploring. And finally, at level 1, unlike most spellcasters, the summoner does get to take a feat. However, it must have the evolution trait. This just allows you to make your Eidolon a bit distinct and unique compared to other summoners at level 1. So even if 2 summoners both take the Dragon Eidolon, their dragons might be slightly different thanks to their selected evolution feat. We'll be going over those when we talk about the feats. Let's talk class features upon leveling up. There's not a whole lot, but there is some cool stuff. Skill feats, summoner feats, general feats. At 3rd level, perception increases to expert, and remember this also increases the Eidolon's perception to expert. Skill increases, signature spells, ability boosts, ancestry feats. It's all very simple stuff early on. At level 5, your Eidolon becomes an expert in unarmed strikes, and then level 7 is the first big power spike for the summoner. All Eidolons gain a new ability at level 7. For more information, check out the video. Your Eidolon also gains weapon specialization, dealing bonus flat damage with all of its attacks. Level 9 upgrades spellcasting to expert. Level 9 also bumps reflex saves for both you and your Eidolon to expert. Level 11 is another nice little boost in power. Your Eidolon gets expert in unarmored defense, you get expert in simple weapons, and both of you increase your fortitude saves to master. And if either of you roll a normal success, you crit succeed instead. 13th level increases the summoner's unarmed defense to expert and increases the Eidolon's unarmed strikes to master plus weapon specialization for the summoner themselves. Level 15 gets your Eidolon greater weapon specialization for even higher base damage upgrade, and Shared Resolve, also at level 15, bumps will saves up to Master and auto crit succeeds normal successes. Eidolon Transcendence at level 17 gets your Eidolon's third and final ability. Also, you get Master Spellcasting. At level 19, your Eidolon gets Master in Unarmored Defense. And finally, at level 19, the big capstone effect from the class features is Instant Manifestation, which lets you manifest your Eidolon for one action rather than 3. I feel like this comes on a little bit late and it's not super powerful, but summoners also already have so much in their kit that I understand their capstone class feature not being that amazing, especially when they get Eidolon Transcendence at level 17. That is much more of their class capstone than Instant Manifestation. And with that, let's move on to Summoner feats, starting at level 1 with Advanced Weaponry, which is an evolution feat and can be taken right at level 1. Advanced Weaponry allows you to add a single trait to one of your Eidolon's unarmed strikes. You can give it Disarm, Grapple, Non-Lethal, Shove, Trip, or Versatile Bludgeoning, Slashing, or Piercing. Basically, most of the super common melee weapon feats can be put on your Eidolon. This is a great first level feat. If you want to make a dragon that's all about tripping people, I love it. Put it on its tail attack, that's really cool. Dual Studies is fascinating, but is not an evolution feat, so this cannot be taken at level 1 as a summoner. Choose 2 skills. You become trained in one, your Eidolon becomes trained in the other. You do not share these skill proficiencies. Additionally, at level 7, you both become expert in those skills. This is fascinating, allows you to diversify yourself from your Eidolon a little bit, become good at different things. You know, you can become trained in Arcana, they can become trained in Athletics, you can let them do the heavy lifting while you do the smart. Plus, the free expert buff at level 7 is huge. Do not undersell that. Energy Heart is an evolution feat and is probably my favorite first level feat for summoners. You take one of your Eidolon's unarmed attacks and change its damage type to any energy besides force. That's fire, cold, electricity, acid, sonic. My Eidolon for my summoner had big praying mantis claws, and it was force damage, and it was cool! Because it did like sonic booms when it attacked, and it was neat, because I have Energy Heart. I like it. Also, your Eidolon gets resistance to that type of damage equal to half its level. Keep in mind with something like this, your Eidolon gains resistance, you do not. So if you have Energy Heart Fire, and your Eidolon is hit by fire damage, it reduces the damage. If you are hit by fire damage, you do not reduce the damage. Resistances are not shared. Expanded Senses gives your Eidolon low light vision and dark vision and a 30-foot imprecise scent. Really good first level feat. Extend Boost, once again, is not an evolution feat, so you can't take it at level 1, but it does give you a new focus pool. Spell. Extend Boost is fascinating. First off, it's a free action, so the only thing you're spending is a focus point. If you have just cast a spell like Reinforce Eidolon or Boost Eidolon, one of those two, you can make a magic skill check of the appropriate tradition. So if you're an arcane tradition summoner, you would make an arcana check. Depending on your success, something happens. If you fail, nothing happens, and you get your focus point back, which is incredible. If you fail this spell, you do not lose the resource. If you succeed, then something like Boost Eidolon, rather than lasting 1 round, lasts 3 rounds instead. And if you crit succeed, it lasts 4 rounds. So really, all you're doing is spending a focus point to enhance your focus cantrip. Glider Form. For 1 action, rather than falling straight down, your Eidolon only glides down 5 feet and 25 feet forward. So long as you do this at least once per round, your Eidolon will not fall at full speed. It will only fall at the 5 feet per round and keep on gliding. This is really cool. If you can get your Eidolon up in the air, it can just stay there for so long. Very nice. And the first level feat of varying controversy because it's not that good, Meld into Eidolon. This is not an evolution feat, so you can't take it at level 1, but let's talk about what it does. Basically, you manifest your Eidolon over yourself. You disappear and become your Eidolon. This sounds really cool, and flavor-wise, it is really cool, but there's so many restrictions that mechanically, this feat is just not worth it. First off, you can't act. Only your Eidolon can act. Basically, when you do this, the summoner no longer exists. The Eidolon can't cast spells by default, so you cannot cast any of your summoner spells while melded into your Eidolon. Additionally, you cannot perform any tandem actions like act together, so you're effectively wasting an action. The only place I can see this being useful is if your armor class is super low and your Eidolon's armor class is way higher than yours that you don't even want to be a target, so you take yourself off the battlefield. The problem is that you also take away action economy, which in Pathfinder 2e, mechanically speaking, is a big detriment. Losing one action per round because you can't act together is really rough. You can't cast Boost Eidolon, you can't cast your spell slots, you can't shoot cantrips. All you can do is move and attack and use your Eidolon's ability, and that's really limiting. The fact that you can't even take this at level 1, you would need to spend a level 2 or higher feat to take it, it's just not worth it. And the final level 1 spell is Unfetter Eidolon. Honestly, it lets you go beyond 100 feet. Like, that's all it does. You spend a focus point, and for 1 minute, your Eidolon can go past 100 feet. It's cool. It's okay. I don't know if it's worth a feat and a focus point, but it does increase your focus pool, so there's that. Second level feats. Alacritous action, your Eidolon's move speed increases by 10 feet. Keep in mind, this is a status bonus. You're not going to get status bonus to move speed from anywhere else for your Eidolon, I don't think, but it's still really good. Amphibious form. Your Eidolon can fight underwater without a penalty, it can breathe underwater, and it gains a 25-foot swim speed. Magical understudy. Your Eidolon can cast 2 cantrips from your tradition. Not bad. Ranged combatant is super cool. You give your Eidolon an extra unarmed strike that is a 1d4 30-foot ranged unarmed strike. It's magical, it's propulsive, so it gets to add half of its strength modifier to it, and you can choose the type of damage from acid, bludgeoning, cold, electric, fire, negative, piercing, positive, or slashing damage, or if you happen to have an alignment-based Eidolon like an angel or a demon, you can choose their alignment as the damage type. There's so many options with this feat, and it's my favorite second level feat. Reinforce Eidolon gives you a focus cantrip of the same name, and Reinforce Eidolon is incredibly powerful. For a single action, you give your Eidolon +1 to armor class, +1 to all of its saving throws, and resistance to all damage equal to half of the spell's level, which at level 2 is only going to be 1, but it still reduces all damage your Eidolon takes, and by extension yourself, by 1, along with making it harder to hit. This is incredibly powerful. The biggest limitation is that you cannot boost and reinforce your Eidolon. You can only use one or the other, and I'll be honest, especially at level 2, +1 to AC and saving throws is a lot better than +2 to damage. But what's nice about these lasting 1 round is you can sort of gauge which one's more important. If you think you can kill the enemy in your next attack, boost it to make sure that happens. It's really cool. Steed form, for if you really want to be a mounted combatant summoner like I was with my Sprite Beast Eidolon summoner, which was so much fun. Typically, if you are riding your Eidolon, you only get 2 actions per round, which is incredibly limiting, but if you take Steed form, you can ride your Eidolon and still get your full 3 actions. It's a ton of fun. If you make a character based around Steed form, it's super cool. I just wish this was a level 1 evolution feat. That's my only complaint. Bloodletting Claws. If your Eidolon critically hits with a piercing or slashing unarmed strike, they inflict 1d6 persistent bleed damage. And if you have a weapon or hand wraps of mighty blows that gives an item bonus to attack rolls, that bonus also applies to the bleed damage. So if you have +2 hand wraps of mighty blows, it is now 1d6 +2 persistent bleed damage. It's not a lot, but persistent damage is always good. Defense Summoner is interesting. So long as you are within reach of your Eidolon can spend a single action to give the Summoner +2 to armor class. Simple as that. Just really good. If you combine this with the evolution surge that makes your Eidolon large or even huge at higher levels, being within its reach is not that hard to do, so you can just have that bonus to armor class. Really good stuff. Dual Energy Heart. It's Energy Heart, again. The unarmed strike that you picked last time now has the versatile trait for whatever other energy type you pick. If for your Eidolon's Jaw strike you picked Fire at level 1, well here at level 4 you can take Dual Energy Heart and pick Cold, and now whenever it attacks with its jaws, you can choose between fire damage and cold damage, and your Eidolon gains resistance to both of them equal to half of its level. Very nice. Lifelink Surge, another really solid feat, which is a focus spell. For 1 action and a focus point, you give your Eidolon fast healing 4 for 4 rounds. You can think of this as healing 16 hit points over 4 rounds. The only limitation is that it must be cast on your Eidolon, not yourself. I don't know why you wouldn't be able to have your Eidolon, but remember, you share hit points, so if you're healing your Eidolon, you're healing yourself. This is a single action 16 HP heal, and the healing goes up by a total of 8 every spell level. So at level 20, this is healing for what? This is healing 80 hit points at level 20. That's not bad at all, and it's a focus spell, so similar to something like Lay on Hands, you can just chill for 10 minutes, Lifelink Surge, chill for 10 minutes, Lifelink Surge, and be fine. This is great. Reactive Dismissal is an interesting way to mitigate damage. As a reaction, if your Eidolon would be taking damage, you can spend your reaction to dismiss them. Now, this does not get rid of all of the damage, but it does reduce the damage taken by double your level. If you take this at level 4, this means you can dismiss your Eidolon to reduce the damage taken by 8. This isn't a ton, but if you're gonna fall unconscious anyway, rather than falling unconscious and losing your Eidolon, you can just sacrifice your Eidolon and hopefully stay alive to cast spells on your next turn. The biggest downside to this is that you cannot re-summon your Eidolon until the end of your next turn. So for 2 rounds, you will be without an Eidolon. Shrink down. This is not useful for all Eidolons. Some Eidolons can already be small, but if they are medium or bigger, for 1 action they can shrink down to small size, and for some reason they can't shrink down smaller. I think this feat would be fine if they could become tiny. Maybe not diminutive, but tiny would be fine. Imagine a tiny little dragon just sitting in your pocket. That sounds adorable. Skilled Partner is pretty good. When you take this feat, your Eidolon gets 2 skill feats. A 1st level skill feat, and a 1st or 2nd level skill feat. And then, when you turn level 7, your Eidolon gets another skill feat. So this is basically sacrificing a class feat to give your Eidolon 3 skill feats. Can be really useful, especially if you're making something like an Intimidation build, because there's tons of ways to upgrade Demoralize within skill feats. Tandem Movement is easily one of the single strongest feats in the early game for summoners. This is an additional tandem action, and effectively gives you an extra action per turn. For 1 action, you and your Eidolon both stride. Sure, it has to be a stride, but you can still act together afterwards. You cannot use act together to take tandem movement, but if you have 3 actions, you can spend 1 action to, oh my god, blur that editing! You can take 1 action to stride together, so you have 2 actions left. Then you can spend 1 action to act together. Maybe your Eidolon strikes and you start casting a spell, and you use that 3rd action to cast that spell. Just like that, you've taken 2 move actions, an attack, and cast a 2-action spell, all in the same turn. This is an incredible feat for action economy. Vibration Sense. Your Eidolon gets Tremor Sense, or if it's aquatic, Wave Sense. Level 6's Blood Frenzy is interesting. You need Bloodletting Claws, but for a single action, if your Eidolon's last action dealt bleed damage, it can go into a Barbarian Rage. This gives it a -2 to AC and the effect of Boost Eidolon. Keep in mind, Boost Eidolon does scale with your striking rune, so this can be as much as +8 to all attacks at higher levels. At level 6, this is still going to be -2 AC for a flat +4 damage. Keep in mind though, actually, maybe keep in mind, comments, I'm gonna need your help on this one. Can a blood frenzying Eidolon be reinforced? Can you cast Reinforced Eidolon on an Eidolon in Blood Frenzy? It says it gains the benefits of Boost Eidolon, but it doesn't say it is benefiting from Boost Eidolon. And the big restriction is that an Eidolon cannot benefit from Boost and Reinforce, but it's only gaining the benefits of Boost Eidolon. So it's just gaining flat damage. I don't know what the ruling is here, and I'm curious. Fight about it in the comments. I want to see blood. Eidolon's Opportunity. It gives your Eidolon Attack of Opportunity. I love it. Again, combine this with Evolution Surge at level 9 to make them huge, and you suddenly have a massive 15-foot emanation of Attack of Opportunity. This is insane. Eidolon's Wrath gives you another focus spell. For 2 actions, all creatures within a 20-foot emanation of your Eidolon take 5d6 damage with a basic reflex save. The damage type is based on whatever energy you picked when you took Eidolon's Wrath, and the damage scales by 2d6 per spell level. This is just Fireball. This is just personal, customizable Fireball. When you pick the feat, you choose Acid, Cold, Electric, Fire, Negative, Positive, or Sonic. Just a really good feat. Master Summoner, a very interesting spell. You gain an additional spell slot of one of your available levels. However, 2 spell slots of that level can only be used for summoning spells. So if you have 2 4th level spell slots, you can turn one of them into 2, but then 2 of those 3 spell slots have to be used for summoning, summon animal, summon construct, animate dead, etc. Ostentatious Arrival. For a free action, which means this is optional, when you manifest your Eidolon, all creatures in a 10-foot emanation of your Eidolon take 1d4 per 2 levels of damage. You're level 6, so this is dealing 3d4. What's important is that this has no saving throw. There is no reflex save or fortitude save. It is flat damage. Keep in mind, if you're manifesting your Eidolon next to you, you are being caught in the explosion. But honestly, your Eidolon is not what this feat is for, because it can also be used when summoning a creature from a spell. So if you cast Summon Construct 60 feet away in between 2 enemies, they both take that 3d4 damage, and there's no saving throw. This is just reliable damage, which is really hard to come by and really good. Phase Out is okay. It is only for the 2 Phantom Eidolons, and for 3 actions, your Eidolon basically becomes intangible. It's not incorporeal, but it cannot make any physical actions. It cannot interact with the physical plane, and it gains resistance to all damage equal to half your level. Basically for 3 actions to make it so your Eidolon can't do anything, just to gain 3 resistance to all damage. Why not just unmanifest your Eidolon at that point? Sure, it could cast magic if you have magical understudy, and then you could just have it permanently phased, which is kind of cool, but also still just kind of unnecessary. Tandem Strike. For 2 actions, you and your Eidolon both make an attack against the same target so long as it is within both of your reach. These are both made at your full attack bonus. This is okay. Honestly, not quite as strong as Tandem Movement because you're not getting better action economy from this. You are getting better multiple attack penalty economy because you're attacking twice at full bonus. The problem, it has to be a melee strike first off, so unless you have a summoner with a decent strength or dexterity stat, this is not going to go super well. Additionally, this is going to put your summoner up front who does not have very good armor class in comparison to other characters. This ability isn't great, especially comparing it to something like Twin Flurry or Double Strike for the Fighter and Ranger. It's okay, it's cool if you want to make a character that fights alongside them, and I suppose you could take the Armor Proficiency General feats to get a little bit better, but I don't know, it feels like it's missing something. Boost Summons is so cool and leads to this summoner fantasy that a lot of people have wanted from the summoner. I dropped my headset. When you cast Boost Eidolon, it not only boosts your Eidolon, but all summoned creatures within 60 feet. How cool is that? If you somehow have a spell that summons multiple creatures and they all hit, That's going to be like +4 damage to all of their attacks. And your summons don't share your multiple attack penalty. So you boost Eidolon, you sustain a summon, you act together to maybe sustain a second summon, and then attack 3 times, all at full bonus. This is so cool! Constricting Hold is pretty good. If your Eidolon has a target grabbed, they make a basic fortitude save against your spell DC. If they fail, they take damage equal to your level plus your Eidolon's strength mod. If you're level 8, that is 12 damage on a failure, 24 damage on a crit failure, and even 6 damage on a success for something that does not have the attack trait. That is what is most important about Constricting Hold. If you can get a grab on them, you can just attack, and now that you have a multiple attack penalty, constrict for free damage. Unless they crit succeed, you are dealing damage. The downside is that it's fortitude, and a lot of monsters have really high fortitude, so don't use it on all targets, but some targets. Energy resistance. You need to have Energy Heart to take this, and it upgrades the resistance from Energy Heart and Dual Energy Heart to your full level instead of half. Pretty good. Hulking Size. This is just a permanent large size upgrade, increasing its range and size on the field. Magical Adept. Your Eidolon gets 1 second and 1 first level spell from your tradition and can cast each of them once per day. The biggest downside about this is that it doesn't use your spell DC, and most Eidolons do not have a good charisma stat, so this isn't gonna be that good. Spell attack rolls and DCs already kind of fall behind, and this is probably going to be at -2, maybe even -3 compared to the rest of what you can do. However, keep in mind you can pick just buff spells and healing spells and spells that don't rely on your spell attack rolls or DC, such as Heroism. Granted, that's at 3rd level, so you wouldn't have that until character level 10, but having your Eidolon Heroism itself, that's powerful. We also shouldn't undersell the fact that this is giving you, the player, 2 additional spell slots to play with per day, and when you only have 4 standard, 2 additional is insane. Miniaturize. Now your Eidolon can shrink down to tiny. Not sure why they needed to make this a second feat. Kinda not a big fan, but maybe because tiny can hide, so I don't know, I'm not a fan. Burrowing Form should not be a 10th level feat. Your Eidolon gets a 15-foot burrow speed. Paizo, why isn't this level 2? Merciless Rend is good, but I don't like the design. Merciless Rend states that if your Eidolon hits the same target twice with its secondary attack, and it specifically deals slashing damage both times, then for a 3rd action, you can automatically deal the damage of a 3rd hit. Don't get me wrong, this is good. Rather than rolling at -8, you just get to hit, which is great. But this is a feat that determines your entire turn. This means your Eidolon's turn is going to be attack, attack, guaranteed hit. And you have to hit with both of the first ones. Maybe it's the kind of thing where if you miss the second attack, you just move or something like that. I'm not sure. I'm not the biggest fan of this. Maybe it would be too overpowered where if you hit once, you could auto hit a second time. Maybe make it 2 actions. I think that would be a little bit better. It wouldn't be as hard to set up. Because especially if you're fighting something with high AC, attacking at -4, unless you're a fighter, is still pretty difficult to hit. So if you miss, I don't know. Something about this feat just bores me in its game design. I can't put my finger on it. Protective Bond is very powerful, especially if you are the kind of person who is fighting up close alongside your Eidolon at all times. If you and your Eidolon are both in an area of effect damage, rather than taking the greater amount of damage, say one of you crit fails, one of you crit succeeds, you can spend your reaction to take the lower amount. So if your Eidolon takes 50 from crit failing and you take 0 from crit succeeding, you use your reaction, you're taking 0 damage. This is spectacular, basically gives you advantage on saving throws and stuff against area damage. Amazing. Pushing attack is pretty good. One of your Eidolon's unarmed strikes gains the push action from the bestiary, and what this means is if your attack connects and deals damage, you can just shove them for 5 feet. No skill check, no saving throw, you just push them 5 feet, automatically confirmed. Keep in mind, this does take an additional action. So for 1 action, you can shove them 5 feet for free, automatically. No save. Very good, but good. It's good. Good. Transpose. For one action, you swap places with your Eidolon. You combine this with Evolution Surge, you're level 10, you can give your Eidolon flight now. It flies up to 100 feet away, or alternatively, you also have Unfetter Eidolon. You have your Eidolon fly up 300-400 feet, transpose, you're now up there, and they fly back up to meet you. There's no range limit on this. This is crazy. So I have a question. Why would anybody take pushing attack at level 10 when they could have weighty impact instead? Choose one of your Eidolon's unarmed strikes with the trip trait. It gains the knockdown action from the bestiary. Similar to push, this is an extra action after connecting and dealing damage. And the target falls prone. There is no skill check, there is no saving throw. If you hit, they are now prone. Sure, pushing 5 feet, that's fine. I expected this feat to come up. I expected it to be higher level, because an auto-confirm knockdown is insane! That's like a level 12 or 14 barbarian feat! This might be the single strongest summoner feat we've seen so far. Maybe in the entire game, I don't know, I haven't seen the next 10 levels. That's crazy, okay? Auto-confirm knockdowns are dangerous, especially if you have attack of opportunity, which your Eidolon can have. Paizo! Flexible transmogrification at level 12 is pretty good. Once per day during daily preparations, you can just take a 6th level or lower evolution feat and trade it out as needed per day. This is cool. If you know you're going underwater, you can let your Eidolon breathe underwater. There's just a bunch of different options here. I can't go over all of them. You heard me talk about it. Rewind the video and watch it again. I need the watch time. Why is Grab a higher level than Knockdown? Grasping Limbs. If your Eidolon has an unarmed attack with the grapple trait, as an extra action, if it hits and deals damage, the target is just grabbed. No skill check, no saving throw, they're just grabbed. This is amazing, don't get me wrong, but why is this a higher level than prone? Those should be swapped. Link Focus, you get 2 focus points back from refocusing. Summoner's Call is really good. As a reaction, if your Eidolon takes damage, you can call them to your side. This does not prevent the damage from being taken, but if they're surrounded by 5 enemies, you can call them and they teleport adjacent to you. Just really good for getting your Eidolon the heck out of dodge. Towering Size, level 12, it's permanently huge with a 15-foot reach. I love it. Airborne Form, your Eidolon can fly. You do need to take Glider Form first, which is very important. Resilient Shell is incredible! Your Eidolon gets permanent resistance to all physical damage equal to its con modifier, which at this point is probably +4. A permanent 4 resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, yes please. Share Eidolon magic is interesting. Now, any cantrips and spell slots gained from the feats, such as Magical Understudy, can now also be cast by you. Your Eidolon still can't cast your magic, but you can cast any spell your Eidolon has using its spell slot. If your Eidolon has level 5 heroism, you can cast it yourself rather than having your Eidolon do it. Pretty cool. Just more options, which is nice. Level 14 is really good for summoner feats. Speaking of really good summoner feats, Spell Repelling Form. Your Eidolon has a +1 status bonus to all saving throws against magic. Just forever. The only downside is that this is a status bonus, which won't stack with some buffs, but that's still crazy good. Effortless Concentration. Once per round, you can sustain a spell for free. Normally, I'm not a fan of this feat and I don't think it's that worth it, but with all of the feats we've seen that support additional summons like Summon Construct or Summon Animal, being able to sustain one for free every turn is amazing because you can have more than one active. Free sustain, normal sustain, act together. There's just so many cool things you can do. You can have so many summons active and I'm here for it. Ever Vigilant Senses is okay. It's not a super exciting level 16 feat, but it is powerful enough that it should be this level. Your Eidolon gets +2 to Perception, it can see invisible creatures and objects, they are instead concealed, and when it moves within 30 feet of an illusion, it automatically gets to make a save to disbelieve it. It's just really good, but it's not exciting. You know what I mean? just like passive bonuses. Trample is amazing, especially on a huge Eidolon. For 3 actions, your Eidolon moves up to double its speed and can move through the spaces of creatures smaller than it. Any creature who it moves through must make a reflex save against your spell DC, and on a failure, take damage equal to your Eidolon's secondary attack, which at level 16 is probably dealing like 3d6 plus a pretty big number. That's not bad. That doubles on a crit failure, half damage on a success. It's just really fun. And it's a reflex save, which is not fortitude, which is really good. Link Wellspring. You get, 3 focus points instead of 1. Magical Master is interesting, because it means your Eidolon will have more spell slots than you. They're just weaker. At level 18, you're going to have level 8 and level 9 spells, 2 slots of each. With Magical Master, your Eidolon will have a level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 spell slot for one specific spell each. So it's not a lot of different spells, but they get 7 slots per day, whereas you only get 4. What's really good is if you took that feat from earlier that allows you to cast spells that your Eidolon knows. All of a sudden, you have 11 spell slots per day. That's really good. True transmogrification is kind of insane. Once per day, during daily preparations, you can trade any evolution feat for any other evolution feat of the appropriate level. What's really important about this is it doesn't say for a different feat of the same level. It is for a different feat of an appropriate level that you meet the prerequisites for. You are level 18. This means you can now trade away your level 1 evolution feats for a level 18 evolution feat. You can trade away Energy Heart for Magical Master. This is crazy, and it's completely customizable. One day your summon can be huge with Attack of Opportunity and Knockdown, and the next day it can be tiny with Magical Adept and Magical Master and Sling Spells from Hiding. I'm gonna sound really hypocritical, but I love this. I know when I talked about the Inventor, which I haven't done a deep dive up yet, it's coming. When I talked about the Inventor on my live stream, I talked about how I didn't like that each day you can just become a different subclass. I like this. I feel like Eidolons are much more magical and much more malleable in nature, whereas I don't know, I don't have a good way to explain it. My brain is weird. You think I understand what goes on up here? For some reason, I love this, but I dislike the Inventor Capstone. I think because it's a feat, so it's optional, whereas the Inventor's is a class feature. Maybe that's it. I don't know. I like this. I don't like that. Try to make sense of it. Someone's gonna yell at me in the comments. They always do. I cry at night. It's fine. 20th level, Eternal Boost. You are permanently quickened, and that extra action is to cast Boost Eidolon or Reinforce Eidolon every single turn. Keep in mind that if you have other summons out and you have Extend Boost, you are permanently boosting everything! This is so good! It also says that if you're exploring and not in combat, you can just be permanently boosting your Eidolon so that it's already boosted on the first turn of combat. Freaking great. Legendary Summoner is fascinating. The Summoner as a class does not gain 10th level spell slots at all. However, if you take the Legendary Summoner feat and you sacrifice a 9th level spell slot, the 2 spell slots you gain become 10th level spell slots. They can still only be used for summoning spells. But this means that a level 20 Summoner can cast level 10 Summon and Incarnate spells. This is very important because Secrets of Magic has added some very interesting 10th level Incarnate spells. I'll talk about them someday soon. They're very exciting. And Twin Eidolon is fine, but not great. When you manifest your Eidolon, you can also polymorph yourself into your Eidolon, sharing the exact same statistics as them. This has the same issues as Meld into Eidolon, as you cannot cast your spells, you cannot take any actions that are unique to the Summoner. You can only do things your Eidolon could do. And you still share a multiple attack penalty. Now, this is very powerful with Tandem Strike, where you and your Eidolon both attack at the same time with the same bonus. That's huge and basically required with Twin Eidolon. Otherwise, both of you attacking is basically the same thing as your Eidolon attacking twice. So this is really cool, really fun for flavor, but boy is it really weak compared to the other level 20 options. And that's it! That's the Summoner! An hour of talking about Eidolons, an hour of talking about feats and class features, and we've done it! I am gonna go take a nap and eat some rice! Thank you to my patrons for supporting me. If you would like to support the channel just like them, check out the link in the description. We also got merch. Check out the cool merch at nonat1s.com/store, designed by the incredibly talented Pataki Balaj. And finally, thank you again to Moonlight Maps and their Atlas Kickstarter for sponsoring the channel. Go check them out. Link in the pinned comment below. And most of all, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, No Nat 1.